It is so easy to get excited and caught up in conspiracy theories. Once the ball gets rolling, it's just one little thing. Say you look on the back of the American $1 bill and you've looked at it tons of times before. You've had it in your hands countless times. But then you look for the first time really and you realize that there is an image of a pyramid on there with a floating capstone with an all-seeing eye on it. And you ask yourself, why is this on the $1 bill? What does this have to do with America? What does it have to do with money? What is this? Really weird, right? Why are there 13 arrows in the one talon, the one claw, the one, in the one hand of the eagle? Why are there 13 leaves on the branch in the other? Why are there 13 steps on the pyramid? Why is there a recurrence of the number 13? That's not random. That's on purpose. What does this mean? If you then you might go into the internet and just have a look and find out that on the other side of the $1 bill there's a small little owl hidden just near the curve, the little ornamentation around the number 1. It's really small. You might need a magnifying glass depending on how good your eyes are. Why is there an owl hidden there? What does the owl mean? So this is just one small example. You find something in this world, something anomalous, and you pause. And if that happens, you pause. The fact that you're listening to this, you're pausing right now. You pause to consider something. You don't just keep on rolling along with whatever the official story is and you keep on going to work and you do your thing. You pause and you go, what does this mean? And you start to do the research. You jump onto YouTube, you just put in $1 bill pyramid, right? Or not even YouTube, just the internet in general. And suddenly all this stuff comes up. And you go, wait, what is this? What, Freemasons? Who are the Freemasons? What exactly is this? What about secret societies in general? What are these things? What is Bohemian Grove? What is the Skull and Bones? What, are you saying that the majority of all the presidents were a part of this? What does that mean? Does that mean that they have an allegiance to something other than the American people? And why the focus on America, American government? It's because they're at the top of the heap right now. Right? That country they have the most powerful military in history, in recorded history. That is incredible, and they're doing heinous things. Whatever stories, everything's a story. The point is, you can start digging into these things. Crop circles. Right? The official story as well, some guys admitted to it. Some, 2 beer-swilling pensioners, or I don't know if they're pensioners, but basically 2 elderly gentlemen in England admitted to taking a couple of boards and some ropes and creating crop circles. Well, you know what? That may be true. They may have created a circle or 2. But if you look into it, crop circles, they're not explained. They're not explained. They are not explainable. If you look at some of these, that the patterns are so huge and intricate. They are geometrically perfect. They're also meaningful. Some are very clear calendars pointing to certain dates. There's usually a certain depth, a mathematical or philosophical or esoteric depth to the images. They represent things. Nobody's been caught making them. Nobody has been caught making these really elaborate and these beautiful images. They are a mystery. You think they're explained? They're not. Look into it. Crop circles. Just look at the images. You'll be blown away. They're not circles. There's like a new word for them, like crop images or something. The pyramids, right? We don't know how they were constructed, nor do we know how any of these megalithic structures were constructed. And some, the most noteworthy is Puma Punku. I'm not sure how that's spelled. I think it's spelled exactly the way it sounds. Look it up. Puma Punku. I'm sure you'll find it. This is an ancient site in the mountains of Peru, I believe, somewhere. This is one of the hardest stones on the planet. And it is carved with a precision. Like especially there are 90-degree angles inside of the stone, which is really hard to do, because if you chisel a square into a flat surface and to have it be at 90 degrees inside of that and completely flat, it's extremely difficult to do. And apparently the edges are so perfect, it's like so perfect 90-degree angles, that you can cut yourself on them. Maybe these are details. The point is, these things should not exist. And nobody knows who built them. Nobody knows how they were constructed. Goes on. The story goes on. Conspiracy theories. And why are those called conspiracy theories? Where is the conspiracy? It has become this kind of umbrella term for any of these things. They all point in the same direction, and that's just it. They point. Conspiracy theories point. They point at a greater picture. Research into 9/11, right? At first you may go, okay, the official story with Al Qaeda and all of this stuff, and then the petroleum, or the petrol, the gasoline, whatever airplanes fly on. It melted the support structures of those buildings, and they collapsed, and the weight of the things above came, pop. It just knocked down the whole building, right? That may sound plausible. At first glance, it may sound plausible. But then you hear that people say, investigate 9/11. That's one of these catch phrases, as well as 9/11 was an inside job. I'm sure you've heard, or you may have heard of these. And if you pause and go, what are all these people talking about? You can dismiss them, go, yeah, just a bunch of raving idiots, and just they have an axe to grind, and that may be true. However, what are they talking about? If you look into it, and you realize, you know what? There are so many holes in that, and there are blatant lies, and there are really important information is excluded. There were crimes committed. The list is very long. From that, all of the rubble from the actual site, it was whisked away, and I believe it was dumped into the ocean. It was put into a place where you can never get to it. Where if there's any kind of a crime, if there's a car accident, the car gets, it gets impounded or something, it gets stored somewhere, and it gets analyzed so that you figure out exactly what happened. Even like if one person dies, that car will be analyzed. It will be analyzed, it will be looked at. What happened to these building materials? They were whisked away, like probably within less than 24 hours. Just everything, the whole, so you can't even analyze what brought these down. And then you get this idea of the pancake effect, which is not only not supported, it is very actively disputed by groups of engineers. Again, I'm getting caught up in the details of the theories. What purpose does all this serve? Why do you need to know this? Okay, so the government's lying to me. Okay, whoop-dee. What else is new, you may say? Because, like we all know politicians lie, right? Don't dismiss it so easily. Don't dismiss anything so easily, such as the pyramids, such as crop circles, such as the strange symbols on the $1 bill, such as Bohemian Grove. Look these words up. Look them up if you're interested, if you're curious. What do these mean? The Bilderberg Group. What are these things? The list goes on, right? JFK, the John F. Kennedy assassination. Oh my God, right? That is, the official stories just don't stick when you start to analyze them. There are mysteries here. What do they point to? There is this Zen saying that, I believe that Zen itself is a finger pointing at the moon. Zen is a system of thoughts, of practices that is supposed to point you towards a greater understanding, towards a greater truth. It's a finger pointing at the moon, but don't get caught up in the finger. Don't go analyzing the finger more than you need to. Only analyze it so far so that you can understand where it's pointing to, and then forget about the finger. Focus on where it's pointing to, because that's what it's about. So all these conspiracy theories, yes, you can drill down into them and get more and more convinced that, oh my God, there is a conspiracy here, there is a lie here, but that is not what is important. What is important is, what does all this point to? So you have to go down the rabbit hole. Don't get caught up in the details. Keep going. What does it point to? So, like, I'm just a rough chain of events, right? 9/11. What does it point to? That there is a lie. It points to that that wars are manipulated, that there are powers behind the scenes, maybe corporations, but even higher up, the money system. One thing leads to another. What's the overarching story? There is a power elite. There is an elite that controls events, that manipulates events. They're not part of any one country. You cannot use the labels that we use to, a person's a communist, or whatever fear or labels have been manipulated to fear. This power elite they don't slot into any of that, because they control these things and they manipulate them to their will, right? And they're behind the scenes. And what's the further step? As you dig, you get into this idea that there is something being withheld from you. Your attention is being distracted out there. You're being caught. And the conspiracy theories ultimately serve the same end, to get you caught up in the world. That's why, certain conspiracy talkers, they're actually funded by, like Walt Disney, Prison Planet. I forget the name of that guy. When somebody speaks, if it brings fear up within you, you get all excited. And granted, the way I'm getting excited now, because I'm not being completely centered here. When there is excitement and fear coming through, know that this is not it. If it calms you down, gives you a greater feeling, if it expands you, then you know there's some truth there. If the story serves to empower you, there is truth there. Focus on that. So where is the finger of conspiracy theories pointing at? Just dig into it. The whole chain of events. If you want to know, look into it. Look into people like David Icke, big fan of his. Marcel Messing, very interesting guy. He very, very cerebral, very intellectual. If you're into that, if that's more your style, check him out. Many other speakers as well. Look into one, you'll find many more. Where do they get to? They get to that you are a spiritual being. And it gets to that if you want to know who you are, what you are at the root, you have to quiet your mind. So it's really weird that conspiracy theories can be a gateway to this, right? Something shakes you awake, you do all this research, but then you get back to, all this conspiracy stuff, this is actually leading me astray. It's actually distracting me from the truth because it's filling my head with thoughts. But it seems to be a necessary gauntlet for some people to go through to get to themselves and to realize, all this stuff down there, yes, it's real, yes, it's happening, but that's not what's important. The real battle, the real challenge, it is happening inside of us. The war is not out there. The war is on your consciousness. And the goal, you will only win when you wake up, when you remember who you are. That is what it's all about. That is where the finger of conspiracy theories is pointing to.